I woke up for school that morning, groggy and half asleep. I got out of bed and made my way to the bathroom. Great, my hair was partially flattened from my pillow. I wet my hairbrush and ran it through my hair. I was hoping to make it look like I didn't just get out of bed. As I finished up, I grabbed my backpack and rushed out the door. I met my friend outside and we walked to school together. We didn't live too far away. We got to the main street and looked left, then right, then left again, before crossing the street to our school. The bell had rung and we were now in our seats. An odd excitement was filling the air. Our teacher said we will be going to the library first today, which is out of order from our weekly schedule. Wait, does that mean... Yes, it does! It's Scholastic Book Fair Day! Entering the library was a new feeling on these days. Decorations with plushies of characters and cards full of books. Posters of puppies and kittens, and a large variety of quality bookmarks for purchasing. Browsing through all the new books, I came across one that really caught my eye. Bright yellow cover with animals all aligned in a red circle, pie chart style. Chinese characters that I couldn't read with the English underneath. It was a book about the Chinese zodiac. I knew I was born in the year of the snake because ever since I was a kid, my parents called me Lanse, lazy snake. It wasn't just me. My sister and cousin were referred to as the doggies since they were born in the year of the dog. My uncle and another cousin had a knack for getting into trouble when they were young. My family often said that they were, quote, just being monkeys. In Western society, people's behaviors are also explained based on their zodiac signs. Oh, that's something a Leo would totally do, or that's why you don't get on a bad side of a Gemini. I'm not one to generalize people by their signs, but I definitely blame Mercury for any unlucky moments in my life. Hit every red light? Mercury has to be in retrograde. While seemingly different, both the Chinese zodiac and the Western zodiac share many similarities. Both have 12 signs, elements that influence behavior, and both use birthdays to hone in on our personality traits and dispositions. But have you ever heard of BaZi, also known as the 4 Pillars of Destiny? BaZi takes the Chinese zodiac to the next level. Elton Keung is an entrepreneur in Southern California who's been learning all about this tradition.
Literally, ba is the number 8 in Chinese, and then zi is the word for like letter or character. And it is the 8 characters that define us. Each pillar has 2 characters, and then the year, the month, the day, and then the time you were born makes up these 8 characters.
Elton has been around these traditional practices his whole life, with his mom introducing him at a young age. He didn't spend much time thinking about it, though, until the pandemic. He was spending a lot more time at home with his mom and decided to embrace learning about these things instead of fighting it. I recently talked with Elton over Zoom about how he turned to BaZi for guidance and inspiration. Here's our chat. So for these 8 pillars or letters, do they have specific traits attributed to them, or what do they mean?
Yeah, the bottom 4 are always going to be related to a Chinese zodiac animal. So it could be one of 12. And then on the top, it's one of the 5 elements, but it could be the yin or the yang version, making 10 possible different combinations.
Oh, wow. Okay. What got you into it?
So my mom is kind of nutty when it comes to this stuff, right? And I used to be very upset when things would happen in my room, around January and Chinese New Year. And then around when pandemic happened, just had so much time at home, I started to just embrace it rather than resist it, and started to just enjoy it as part of a bonding experience with my mom.
Oh, that's really cool. What made you keep going with it? Was it just kind of oh, this is actually pretty interesting, or?
Yeah, it's fun. I think it's people are into horoscopes, and people are into different spirituality, and I think this is right up there amongst the esoterics. And it's also just one that not a lot of people in the Western culture even have an idea about, or even have thought about. So I thought it was cool just to share what I know, at least with the Western world.
Yeah, I think that's amazing because I knew there were different like elements to the zodiac animals and the yin and yang, but I didn't know it was like as intricate as it was.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's still a lot for me, and it's like learning something new every night, every day, and it's like a never-ending thing. So
And I do appreciate that you're taking it and kind of utilizing in this Western world that we live in as Chinese Americans. Can you walk us through maybe a few different characters and what they mean or represent?
the flow of the five elements: fire creates earth, and earth creates metal. Metal creates water. Water creates wood, and then wood comes back and creates fire in that kind of circular motion. Where it gets like metal, it gets hard to conceive, you know. But I would say look at it like a vase or just like a cup of water. And that metal creates water in the sense that it can hold water, like in a cup. And then, of course, we all know how the Chinese zodiac kind of goes. We're in the year of the rabbit now. We were just in the tiger. Tiger goes into rabbit, and then rabbit goes into dragon, all around in a circle. With this, actually creates 60 possible different elemental. Like we're in the year of the water rabbit right now, and we're actually going to move into the year of the wood dragon next year. It has different characteristics, and we in our lifetime will never really encounter the same thing twice. So it's cool.
Would it be possible for you to do a reading for me? We discussed beforehand that what Elton needs is my birthday and birth time.
Yeah, I'm gonna just be reading your chart very like ambiguously when it comes to like that.
Sounds good.
Are you ready?
Yes, I am ready. Thank you.
I do have your chart like on the next screen right here, but I'm just gonna tell you, and you probably know some of this already, right? That you are like born on a yin water day, right?
I probably forgot, honestly.
So the day you're born on, like whatever element that is, like on the day, that becomes your like day master. So you being yin water, think of yourself not like a large yang body of water like an ocean, but more of like a smaller body of water, kind of like a lake or
I was going to say puddle.
cloud. Sometimes it's described as cloud, but just some form of water that is yin. And your chart, unfortunately, but I found out fortunately, is very, very what's called weak, meaning you don't have a lot of water in your chart, if any at all. I don't like the word weak, it's just like the literal translation. You have a lot of opposing energy working towards that. And I recently discovered, my mom's like super into this stuff, that you're actually what's called 重각. If you think of like trying to balance your elements like a scale, tip that scale kind of closer to even if possible to achieve that balance. But you being so, quote, weak, the scale is so imbalanced, you actually just want to lean in the other way. The opposing energy actually becomes your favorable energy, and it's better to like not fight it, rather to try to balance something that's unbalanceable. I think that's like the best way for me to describe 重각. I have a stupid example, but I live in like the mountains, and in the summertime, I've discovered this summer that scorpions appear. And then I like caught a scorpion, and then I was trying to make sure I had what I needed. So I gave him a drop of water, but one drop of water led to the scorpion's death. So I would say that's like an example of what would happen to you. You don't even need water anymore, right? Because you just have been living your whole life so used to not having water that the moment you get it, it's kind of like, it might actually be bad.
Oh, interesting. Could you tell me more? Is that
Yeah, no, I have relationships and career if you want to delve into it.
Yeah, tell me, please.
You want to do career?
Yeah, let's go for it.
I think I like this for you. As the Gen Z kids would call it, they call it like Riz, which is short for charisma for us older folks that don't know that. And I think you have, whether it seems like it or not, you actually are very like ambitious. You are a go-getter. That is actually good for you just to be in that like cutthroat, get it kind of some form of job like that. And that you are also just like very bold and courageous in action. But you have, one of the things is like lack of flexibility would be like a potential drawback. So those are the things to keep in mind in your career.
So earlier when you were talking about water, what does it mean to have too much water?
Too much water?
Yeah.
Depends on, like which day master you are, right? So since I'm like weak earth, and I have too much water, I would think of myself now as like earth energy that becomes like a swamp where it's like, oh no, there's too much water and it's leaking everywhere. Like I used to, own boba shops, and my boba shops, whenever it rained, it'd be raining inside too. It'd be ridiculous. Or pipes would just blow up for no reason. It could just be coincidence, but my mom's just like, oh, it's just going to happen to you because you have too much water. That's what she tells me.
Then relationships.
Relationships. You have a lot of, I think starting this year, actually, you're running a lot of peach blossom luck. There should be a lot of love coming your way, if not already. I would say specifically, like, you do tend to be more agreeable. So it's important to, kind of fight for your rights more. I think, your husband eventually, whoever that may be, is more like a provider type. But I want you to maintain as much balance as you can. I do see something that's like more traditional for you. More traditional, like.
What do you mean, like more traditional?
The husband's the provider. I just see you with a rich guy, basically. Long story short.
Oh, that'd be fun.
I think that would work best for you.
It's interesting to hear some of these things. I don't know, like, how do I kind of mitigate some of these things? Because you said if I'm the Scorpion in the situation, is there stuff for me that I could potentially do? Yeah, like in a perfect world, right, I would probably want someone that has a lot of earth and fire energy, or someone that is needing of water energy because I have too much, right? Sometimes like the balancing person versus the person that is like you, like, they're both fun in different ways, right? So someone that balances you out, you might not even like sometimes because they just push you, right back. So it's hard to say. I would just, I wouldn't stress out about it too much. I can't be friends with Scorpios, Yeah, there's personalities and traits that are tied to the animals and signs, but I don't think they're the defining factor of the people you meet. Going back to the whole water situation for me, like, so I have too much water, too little water. Okay, so if... You're the Scorpion in my example earlier, that you're so used to not having water that if you get water, it actually is trying to tip the scale back this way. It doesn't quite work. You just, birds of a feather flock together. So instead of trying to get more metal and water in your chart, you actually just want more. Fire would be the best, but any wood, fire, or earth energy is going to be good for you. But fire being the most important. So red would probably be your lucky color, and just like living in hotter climates. Perfect. I'm already here. So I want to talk about identity and how it relates to being authentically yourself as an Asian American within American culture. Do you ever feel like you're in this in-between spot where, like, you are an American, but because of being ethnically or culturally Chinese, that it tends to lead people to make you feel like you're not someone that belongs here? Well, I came when I was like 7 years old from Hong Kong, but I was also like born here first before that. And then I spent 5 years in New Jersey as like the token Chinese boy. And then I came back to Southern California for high school, where I just got completely like Asian-ified again. So yeah, I would say my Chineseness and my Americanness is very, very wide. So I could still be decked out in Philadelphia Eagles gear because, being from Jersey, I'm a really big Eagles fan, and just be completely upset when they lost, right? I don't actually even feel American that much, but when I think about it, it's like, hey, I'm pretty white for liking football this much and having these kinds of intense, sad emotions when they lose, right? And then on the flip side, it's like I can show up to Chinese New Year and I can write in Chinese, and it's like second nature to me to speak Cantonese. And then I also in college learned Mandarin, really brushed up on it. So, I can just be in China and Taiwan and Hong Kong and fit right in. I don't know. It's hard for me to feel out of place, thankfully, but I can see where if you didn't have the circumstances I had growing up, it's you didn't grow up in the 626 with 500 other Asian kids around you going to boba shops. So then, you just never had that kind of contact. Do you ever feel like this duality is one experience, though. Do you feel like you have your Chineseness and then you have your Americanness, but do you ever feel like your Chinese American experience is a unique experience that one or the other doesn't have separately, but together it's its own specific thing?
I would say like there's very specific things that can happen, you know. Don't want to get too dark on the topic, but like the Monterey Park shooting that happened, right, is something that initially just like was a lot of ethnicity was put into question or like whatever, it doesn't matter, right? It more of like it hurt as just like it is a very American thing to have like a shooting occur, I would say, and that happening that I felt like really most like hurt by. It doesn't matter that what it was just like it rippled through our community, like, and people still talk about it like to this day. Those times it's very much like a singular rather than being like dual. It's like I can't be American on the topic or slash like Chinese on the topic. It's just like I feel part of that community, like as a Chinese American, like wholeheartedly, right? Yeah.
Is it important for you to have your ideas seen as American, Chinese American, or just like full Asian?
Yeah, I mean, anytime I like, I used to post on social media a lot more. And when I create something, sometimes I'm like, oh, how will this sound for me as like a Chinese person to say this or as like an American to say this, like I do have to watch my words on like the Chinese side like a lot more. Like having opinions on like any matters is I do have to check myself sometimes. It's like, can I make a joke like this or can I produce a product like that? Like when I used to produce a lot of like boba drinks, would I be able to like say certain things?
Where do you feel like this kind of caution stems from?
At the time, capitalism, right? Like I would make a drink a certain way or not a certain way because I wanted to sell more drinks, right? I wanted people to like the drinks, and I wanted to also have like, of course, like a voice in the drinks that I was selling. But sometimes when it backfired, it ultimately hurt, right? Like people had an issue with I forgot even what drink. It's been so long, but I would have a drink that like it got political for like no reason. I don't know why, but then someone in the town just like hated it for many reasons on top of the name of it or whatever, thought it was like gross and very un-American or whatever. And then I'm just like, what? and it really hurt, right? Because I was just like opening up in a new part of town, like Pasadena, and going from the first store being in San Gabriel, very, very Chinese American, to like now in Pasadena where I'm kind of have more audiences that aren't just Chinese American, and have that kind of response like it really hurt me at first, right? I don't know.
Do you feel like BaZi and Chinese Zodiac should be as American as the Eagles? Do you feel like it could be as used as much as the like astrology signs and stuff?
I don't know where horoscopes like came from, whether it's like Roman, Greek. I don't know. I don't want to say anything more, right? Like wherever it came from, it's not American, right? It's not.
Yeah, no, it's not specifically American, but
yeah, this Chinese metaphysics, it has the same grounds because it uses, while they use like the stars and stuff to determine stuff, using the sun and the moon, these two closest rocks to us to determine how your life's going to go, potentially. I think it should be just as talked about and amongst those topics because the stars are so much farther away. I feel like, it could have an influence of how, where Jupiter was and when I was born, all that stuff. I feel like where the sun was when I was born is like massively more important. Yeah, and the moon too. Like when it's a full moon out there, people go crazy, and that's why the word like lunatic exists.
True. We do have we can physically feel the sun. So I did see on your Instagram that you're working on a BaZi project. What is that? Can you disclose some of it or?
So yeah, no, I'm just, making a card. It's going to be a lot of work to make like each card, but we have, of course I'm not the artist or anything. I'm working with another talented artist that he's the one I want to go with on the project, but it's going to take some time to get it all done. But producing some sort of like Chinese, BaZi project. In the form
Interesting.
of
Would it be like all 60 of them, like in a deck?
Yeah, like Pokemon, pretty much.
Oh, that's really cool though.
And I still can't like tell you today whether it's gonna be like a playing card deck or a tarot reading card deck or whatever. I don't actually know the answer yet because it doesn't make sense to anyone. I'm trying to figure that out myself, like what it could really do. So
Yeah, you're taking these ideas and things that your mom and you have come together to learn about, and then kind of creating a project or an idea of something with that into something that's kind of yours, right? How has the relationship with your mom changed since you started learning all this?
I think it's funny because it's like we can completely agree where the fridge should go or where like a TV should go, like just everything. We can just agree on where furniture should be, right? Just this year and then next year and the year after that. Like we just know, just boom, 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 easy. And what color things, like, which belongs to who, like, so I think it's changed for the positive in many ways. Not that anything was like negative in the first place, but I think it's just like more commonality and, we share like, I mean, I won't call it like a belief, but, we have the same like belief system and that we know like good things will come eventually.
Yeah. Do you feel closer?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It also gives a lot of like, hope, I guess, in many ways, right? So like there's another part of this whole thing where I can measure a person's like karma with another person, and it's like this life. I'm my mom's like guardian. I'm her protector in many ways, and I try to be that as much as possible because that's what my karma is supposed to like serve. And I've never feel like bad about the role being assigned to me in this life at all because I fully embraced it. And the hope comes from just like knowing that it goes on forever. We'll never get out of this like reincarnation pattern or whatever until we graduate from being human and whatnot. And there's gonna be a lot of human experiences that we'll go through, a lot of hard things that we're gonna go through, that our soul has to go through before it even makes it to anything. So I think it's nice to know that these souls are always gonna be part of your journey and that you're never gonna have to travel alone, and that gives all the hope in the world.
That was my conversation with Elton Keung, entrepreneur and hobbyist who has been learning about the Chinese practice of BaZi. We have more information, photos, and graphics about BaZi on our website, pbsreno.org. For more information on this episode and the series, head to pbsreno.org/Refugee's Daughter, and a special thank you to Elton for joining the show. Subscribe to Refugee's Daughter wherever you listen to podcasts and give the show a rating and review. I'm Christina Lee, and thanks for listening. This episode was written by Christina Lee with production help from Divergent Point Media. Refugee's Daughter is a presentation of PBS Reno.